Check 1, 2. Hey there, good morning. It is Wednesday, March 19th. I'm Rob, thatDeveloperDad. And as usual, I'm working on some C# and .NET and some Blazor while I build out more features on the DM's familiar. I'm getting closer and closer every day to having this thing ready for the public. And I kind of can't wait. And this week, we've been working on being able to edit the NPCs after we've done the random rolling and the generation of their descriptions and stuff like that. Sometimes we want to customize what's going on with them. And this week, I've been focused on getting the D&D stats editable. And the path that I've been on, it's gotten these game stats. It's gotten them to display. But as you can see, as soon as I hit edit, things are going wrong. And I realized this morning as I was thinking about what I'm doing, and let me share my screen. Silly me. So you can see down here at the bottom, an unhandled error has occurred, reload. That's from me messing with stuff yesterday afternoon, trying to get it to work. And it's not doing what I need it to do. I'm trying to fly in pre-built, customized, specific editors for different aspects and so on. And I've gotten the stats to display. I can change the stats on screen, but then the back propagation of those changes to the underlying models and such just ain't happening. Change detection isn't coming easily and stuff like that. And I think I've fallen into the trap that we all fall into frequently. Hopefully not terribly frequently, but frequently enough that it's sort of a meme amongst developers. I've made this way more difficult than it needs to be, and I think the structure that I've built, as elegant as it seems in my own mind and on paper, it's too complicated. So this morning, I'm gonna give y'all a Mea Culpa. Say, I'm barking up the right tree, but I'm barking up it the wrong way. And we're gonna start doing this. So I gotta come down here and I gotta go into the components first. I wanna make sure I'm not leaving any unwanted traces in not the CSS, but the code behind, our on edit model changed handler, all this good stuff. Dispose, save button click. Do I have anything gnarly in detect changes? Actually, detect changes isn't even being called at this level, but I'm going to leave this here for now. I just want to make sure that I don't have any traces of these custom subform or the editors in the actual Blazor component, and it looks like I don't. So that's good. I did manage to keep things nicely separated, but my editor 5e razor, the edit model, I got to come out to the edit model, and I'm just going to start at the constructor. And I know that by getting rid of this line of code, it's going to light up all kinds of stuff. As I don't know what this is, compiler errors, and so on. And compiler errors can be our friends, especially when we're trying to unwind some changes that we've decided to backtrack on. So I just got rid of the custom UIs. Handle edit model changed. We're going to get rid of the custom UI assignment here. We're going to get rid of it here, you can go bye-bye. And that's going to light up compiler errors in other parts of the code base. And that's what I want right now. Our build custom subforms, goodbye. Because the subform idea, as much as it is good on paper and in concept, when the fingers meet the keyboard and when the code meets the compiler, it's turning out to be way more complicated than it needs to be. And if I'm being honest with myself, way more advanced in the field of working with Blazor than I should have taken on. It is well beyond my skills and knowledge with the tech stack than I should have thought I should, than I should have tackled, if I'm being honest with myself. I need a much more thorough understanding of how Blazor works internally before I can entertain the idea of any kind of dynamic controls and stuff like that. But it's a learning experience. And I wrote some pretty cool code in here on the way. Now, I'm going to save everything. I want to see if Editor 5e Razor has any references to it. I've got 3 here. And we've got editor type map. That needs to go bye-bye. And then, of course, just within the class file itself. So let's close up the work in that components folder here for the time being. And we'll go back into object services. Inside specialized, we've got this editor type map and specialized editor attribute. I'm just going to toss them. We're not going that route anymore. So we'll delete those. Yep, goodbye. Editor 5e Razor, you're about to go bye-bye too. I'm just going to delete this whole townsperson stats. You're out of here. And so is the specialized. Delete, yes. Save. And now, I want to take a look at my GitHub. Okay, all of those changes, good. Before I commit this set of changes, this very destructive set of changes, I need to rebuild and run the app and make sure I haven't left any wires hanging out or any spare parts laying around inside the chassis that shouldn't be there. I think change detection is new. And I'm going to 86 that in a second too. Okay, so it looks like I do have some compiler errors. Let's get rid of change detection. Goodbye. Whoop, no, not rename. Delete. Yes. Save. And let's see here. Found markup element, blah, blah, blah. I'm going to need to rebuild. Actually, I'm not going to rebuild. I'm going to do this manually. And ls. Let's take a peek. Okay, good. I'm in the root of the solution folder. So I'm going to do a .NET clean. And that basically rips through the source code tree and deletes most of the object and bin folders that are artifacts of the compilation or build process. Now I'm going to do a .NET build, which recompiles everything in the solution. And then finally, typer namespace specialized. I was about to say, finally, I'm going to restart the developer window, but services.object services. Am I missing an assembly reference? And editor type maps. So where are Which files? Editable model builder. Here we go. We can get rid of editor type map. It is no longer a thing. Get rid of this assignment. Goodbye. This concept of custom editors. You're out of here. Edit model no longer accepts custom editors in its constructor. And get custom editors for type. We are unwinding that concept out of my code base. And then, of course, there's this using statement at the top of the file that's no longer needed and no longer resolves to anything. All right. .NET build. We'll build it again. Looks like it succeeded. And I've still got some problems being reported down here in the problems console, but they're all on a file that no longer exists. So to resolve that, I'm going to try doing this developer reload window, and we'll see if they sneak back in. Sometimes, oh no, 5e Razor, you're out of here, buddy. No, don't save. Get out. Have those files snuck back in somehow? I thought specialized was gone. Delete. Delete. I thought I'd be able to just zap the whole folder, but heckin' bamboozled. Okay. So, no problems are detected in the workspace. Thing of beauty. One more. I'm going to go to terminal. And I'm going to combine clean and rebuild into one line. And we do that by going .NET clean, ampersand, ampersand, .NET build. Off it goes. There's the clean. Now it's rebuilding everything. You can see it doing its thing. Compiling, good stuff. I want to run the app just to make sure it's in the state that it was in before I started introducing this more advanced, but unfortunately, ultimately flawed concept of type-specific editors. I'm sure if I were to keep grinding on it, I'd eventually refactor it into something that'd work, but I feel like that's a process that is actually not a best practice. Like when you realize that you're gone down a path and that the path could work with just a little bit more grinding, a little bit more work, but your gut is telling you, hey, you know, this is probably the wrong approach to have used, and maybe you should rethink and back out. But then you give into the sunk cost fallacy, like, I've already put so much work into this, and I'd hate to waste all that effort, so I'll just keep going. And instead of backing out and starting in a fresh direction where you can give yourself the freedom to think through how you need to accomplish what you want to accomplish, instead of doing that, you just keep digging down that rabbit hole. Next thing you know, you've wasted a week when by backtracking and starting fresh in a simpler direction, you could have delivered the functionality in a couple of days. Ask me how I know that this happens. I've done it to myself over and over again. And I'm by telling you this and illustrating that I've made this mistake in my own project, I'm hoping to show you my failure so that you can learn from my fail instead of having to wait until you make the same mistake and learn from that. So we're all backed out. We're all good. I can edit here. I can get rid of these breakpoints that I introduced while I was trying to debug the change detection. You can see Elwin Bright eyes. Let's change that. And you can see that our reset button is lit up down here, our save changes. Reset still works. I like the idea of calling Elwin, giving Elwin the surname Bright Eyes. So we're going to save that. And there we go. Groovy. So we've successfully reverted and backed out all of those game stats changes. But I still need to be able to edit those game stats. So what do? Well, the simplest solution, pardon me, is to come out to the managers where I've declared the townsperson inside my townsfolk manager assembly, and I go into contracts and I take a look at townsperson over here. And you can see, like I've got here on personality description, I've applied that UserEditable attribute, and this is working a treat. I like the way this works quite a lot. And of course, for other things, editor caption, this is the iEditable implementation, okay. Yada, yada, yada. Up on character appearance, you can see if we plumb in here that I've got down on the detailed appearance, I've got that UserEditable attribute that I've applied on this property inside the complex character appearance property and all that good stuff. And while this is working, it's kind of making my software architect brain go, it's got my spidey sense tingling quite a bit. And one of the problems I've got is we're getting dangerously close to backing myself into a corner where I risk running into a problem with a circular dependency. This is a UI concern. This attribute is expressing a concern that belongs, or that should belong, exclusively to the UI or the presentation layer, if you want to think in terms of layers. And here it is in, well, character appearance. I believe this class is living in the Game Tools framework. Doesn't belong there, but that's where I put it months ago. I've got a larger refactor planned for later where I clean up all of these things that ended up in the wrong places. But I'm also using it on townsperson, and townsperson is declared inside one of my manager assemblies. Now these managers are workflow orchestration, and they should be concerned with implementing, managers should be concerned exclusively with coordinating the activities of a select number of worker components, engines and resource access. Those engines and resource access components provide capabilities to the manager, who stitches those capabilities together to compose the logical workflows that provide the requested feature. And here I've gone and stuffed a presentation only concern into my manager assembly area. And that's gonna cause problems eventually. So what do I need to do? Well, I want to do this slowly. And before I start this, because I might decide I have to back it out, I'm going to commit and snapshot my code base in its working state right now. Okay. So, what are we doing? First, I'm going to stop the project and I'm going to talk through the idea that I have. I've got a couple of problems. Number one, the code structures that I am using to dynamically create these edit forms from my quote unquote domain objects. And we can consider townsperson to be a domain object. The attributes and the metadata structures that I've created are all in the Game Tools framework library. And they really ought to be over in the UI library. Now, I can't just move them because my UI library has a reference to my townsfolk manager component, and my townsfolk manager component would need a reference back to the UI. And there's that circular dependency I was talking about, right? So here's what I want to try and do. Object services, not really the right place for it, but I think what I need to do is, and it's gonna slightly break my fully dynamic concept here, but I don't think it's gonna break it that badly. I'm going to call this new folder Edit Models. And I'm going to add a class inside Edit Models. And I'm going to call it Townsperson Edit Model. Townsperson Edit Model is going to inherit from Townsperson. And of course, we got to bring in that namespace. Easy peasy. And there we go. And what we're going to do, actually, we're not going to have a constructor like that. What I want to do is want to stand up a static factory method that accepts an instance of the townsperson class and uses that instance to return an editable instance of the townsperson edit model class. Copilot's trying to race ahead and read ahead in the book. It does that. The edit model should include a private copy of the original instance but that private copy should not receive property updates until triggered by an apply changes operation request. Needed behaviors. For any edit model domain class edit model. Create edit model. Object instance. Apply changes. Do I want to do it that way? No. This version of the domain models decorated in this way will allow us to apply the metadata attributes to the editable properties that will drive the construction of the subsequent editor forms. We're going to avoid, we'll avoid adding additional behaviors to these edit models. Instead, placing any edit behaviors on the main edit model class that really drives the editor forms. All right, I'm going to save this, and then I'm going to step away for like a second, a minute. And then when I come back, what I want to do is I want to try and at least get the constructor going so that I can create a townsperson edit model from a townsperson. I'll be back in a jiffy. Okay, I'm back. Sorry about the delay. How do we want to do this? I think what I need to do, so editable model builder, it's receiving in its build model thing an instance. So who's calling this? Object editor form. Let's take a look at this. All right. So we'll come over here. We've got this. This is on initialize edit model. And I think what I need to do is put responsibility for converting between my raw domain object into this edit model, because it's really just a view model. And that tells me that I got the name wrong. I'm going to change that to edit townsperson view model. Whoop, there we go. Save that. Save everything, just in case. So the construction of the edit townsperson view model is going to want to be a part of the component that is managing these townspeople. And that would be my create NPC page. So instead of instance equals this dot current NPC dot NPC model, I need to, well, we'll just come up here, go to definition, and let's see, I want to go back to the Razor page, go to definition on current NPC, and what I'm going to do here is public edit townsperson view model get current editor VM. Excuse me. And that ain't gonna work. I could edit var edit VM equals nope current NPC as edit townsperson. Oh no, current NPC is its own kind of view model dot NPC model, I believe, is the townsperson property in there. It's been a while. Yep, as edit townsperson view model. Return edit VM. And that is nullable. See, I don't really love that. I don't like that at all. Codebase. Working on standing up a edit townsperson view model with a capital M, and I want to be able to instantiate it by providing a pre-existing instance of the townsperson class to some method that casts the townsperson as an instance of that child class. I know this is bending Liskov's principle a bit, but work with me here. These editor view models are intended to provide additional property decoration for use by the editor builder subsystem. We already have in place. Let's see what Copilot has to say. I need another brain on this. I don't like that this might be null because we are doing a direct cast. This might be a better way of this might be a safer way here. That might be a much better way of doing it. Here's from town person. We can create a factory method that maps properties from the source to create a new. Here's how. Yep, I thought we'd need a I like that idea, but the manual mapping like that gives me the willies. Specific attributes of behavior here. Yeah. That's what I'd suspected we need to do, but that manual property assignment you're doing there really craters our ability to make changes in that domain model without running into trouble when we forget to map those changes in the edit view model. Reflection, perhaps? So edit townsperson view model. Here's our static factory method, private static copy properties. Okie dokie, there's the thing. All right, now there are some things on the townsperson that are marked with specific attributes, and I need to explore over those and refresh my memory for a second. Bear with me. So game object, good. Definition, that's a game object, good. What about generated property? Not a game object. Excuse me. All right, so here's what I'm going to do. Close all of these extra things out. Editable model builder, you can go away for now. Edit townsperson view model. Townsperson, I'm going to keep that one open. We can close create NPC. We'll keep the page model open for a moment. So edit townsperson view model. Good stuff. I'll apply that. Then we're going to iterate and finally test. I should have pushed the apply button before I sent this prompt. Is okay. Come on, Copilot. Actually, you know what? I'm just going to hit stop. Okay, let's apply. Boop. And it goes. And I'm going to keep. Okay. Region. Factory, methods, and support. And unfortunately, we can't declare static methods on either static methods as either abstract or interface methods. Otherwise, I absolutely would turn this stuff into either an abstract class, like a generic base class, or a generic interface. Unfortunately, the language doesn't let us do that. It's fine. And I'm going to say, yeah, that's a-okay. Now I do need to, let's come into copy properties. All right. Those changes have been applied. Now, with scanning the properties on this class for the edit models build fields method, we've run into issues with infinite recursion while reflecting over the townsperson type. I introduced a marker attribute called game object that we used to identify the complex properties that need to be included in the deep copy process. When we're doing our deep copy, we need to include only those complex properties that are marked with the game object class attribute, instances of or properties that are of the generated property type, and any public properties that are standard .NET simple types. Let's adjust the copy properties to account for those constraints. I gotta save. Select a deep copy. Okay. Can read, can write. Bail. Value equals prop.get value from the source. Good. Target get type get property. Target prop is null. Out you go. Prop.property type. Type of generated property. Target prop.set value, target value. Nope, we need to do a deep copy on generated property types. So I'm going to apply this change, and then I'm going to actually review in the editor window and update comments with what I want it to change for me. So generated property, we're missing a thing. We need get custom attribute. We need to bring in system.reflection. Game object comes from Game Tools Framework Annotations. I think we've fixed up all of our anger code. Now let's review what Copilot's built for us on a full screen. So if prop.property type equals type of generated property, Copilot perform a deep copy of the generated property instance. This is a complex type. But is not a game object. It still needs deep copying, though. Complex types, check for the game object attribute, blah, 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 blah. It has game object attribute, copy properties, so on and so forth. So we basically just recurse back into copy properties, passing the complex value for the property we're dealing with. So for instance, character appearance on the townsperson class, if we look at character appearance, we see that the appearance property is an instance of the character appearance complex class. We know that character appearance is decorated with game object, so it's going to fall in there And our copy properties is just going to use recursion to use the same method with a different type of object to create a full deep copy of that object. And then we're going to set it into our targets property for that. Direct copy for non-game object complex types. I don't think I have any raw lists or collections on the townsperson class. It doesn't, I don't appear to. User ID, set owner is public, given name. So string, bool, generated, method, int, string, nullable string, complex, string, generated, game stats. I'm going to have to decorate that stuff. It's fine. And then editor caption, is this a method? It is not. But it's a read only. Let's take a look here, and I believe if the prop cannot read or the prop cannot be written to, out we go, because it's not copyable. So I don't have to worry about that editor caption thing. All right. So this is going to copy everything but the game stats at this point. Let's get that set up. Go to the definition. And to get this working, all I should need to do, I'm going to need to bring in the reference to framework annotations. Oh, duh. I can't put it on the constructor. I have to put it on the class because I am a silly goose. All right, now these ability score stats, also complex objects. Numeric stats, again, complex objects. Luckily, I don't have them stuffed off somewhere weird. So, game object for you. Game object for you. Do I have any other types declared in here? I do not. Save. Boom. All right, editable implementation, blah, 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 blah. Townsperson, we're good. NPC page model. Inside, get current editor VM. Edit VM equals edit townsperson view model from townsperson current NPC dot NPC model. And then we can return our edit VM. Over here, I'm going to grab this method and I've got to go back to the create NPC razor, where instead of setting the instance to at this.currentNPC.NPC model, I provide, and I think I invoke this method like so. Save. Oops. All right. Just before I build and run, I'm going to close the townsperson, edit model, NPC client model, and close that. Let's take a look at our common components, object editor form.cs. Here's initialize edit model. Where's my on parameters? Set async handler. Component event handlers. Is it in here? Sure is. If model instance is not equal to null and visibility equals true as visibility, initialize edit model. Let's drop a breakpoint right here. Now, I just want to see this edit townsperson view model arrive in my editor form. I have little to no expectation that that it'll actually continue to function after all of these changes. But we'll come back to that this afternoon. Or rather, if I have time in between this and this afternoon's session, I'll come back in and keep chugging away at this concept I have and explain the changes in the next session. But I do have some things that I need to do that are unrelated to this in between now and 1 o'clock. All right, so that is built. Is it built? Oh, let's see. Yes, it is. Execute the server process. Get it running. Here we go. And I'm giving myself a non-zero likelihood that this is going to crash. But we'll see. Oh, yeah. Argument exception, property set method not found. What's the target prop? User ID. Oh, jeepers. Is it? And that's on the townsperson, isn't it? Okay, just carry on. You exploded. Edit townsperson view model. Fine. Direct copy for simple types. That's a little weird. Let's see what's going on with that user ID. I know I did something peculiar with it. Townsperson. Oh, it's a private set. That's it. Easy enough to fix. Protected set. Stop. Rebuild. Do I have any others that are private set? Okay, I've got a bunch of inits. Those should be okay. Maybe. We'll see. Okay, let's run it again. And then I was right to give myself non-zero odds that it'd crash and burn. There's always some little detail. But hey, we spun up. Let's see if it blows up when I try to go into edit mode. Okay, we've got initialize edit mode. Our model instance is an edit townsperson view model. Mwah. We know that's working. We've got all kinds of stuff on here. Let's just let her rip and see what we get. We have fooled around. Now we'll find out. And it exploded again. I'm not surprised. Okay, so this session, I demonstrated that even experienced developers go down the wrong path and that sometimes we need to unwind some decisions we made. And I started down a new path. First off, by working to consolidate the bits and pieces and the bits and bobs that make the edit form work, I'm working to consolidate as many of those into the actual UI project as I possibly can. I know that I'll be able to get all of the things that are concerned with editing down into the UI assembly eventually. It's just going to take me some work to get there. But once I've done that, I can return to modifying the domain object definitions and so on in the places where they exist without having to worry too much about introducing regressions in my presentation layer. I can make customizations to those objects using this edit townsperson view model that really only matter for editing without negatively impacting how the townsperson class interacts with the system and all of the other places that it interacts with the other components. So I'm just working on strengthening, consolidating the concept within my software system, as well as making the concept of having this dynamically built edit capability in the UI be as cohesive and compact as possible. So I'm going to take care of some real world tasks that I need to look after. And then with whatever time I have between finishing that stuff up and 1 o'clock, I'm going to keep plugging away at bringing this thing back to the state that it was in after we unwound all of my game stats editor stuff. So I'm going to get it restored to working order. And then we're going to experiment with moving the UserEditable attribute declarations from these properties up here on the townsperson domain model down to that edit townsperson view model. Once I've got that working for one, we'll apply it to the rest, and then we'll move the actual attribute, this UserEditable attribute, down into the UI code base instead of over in the framework where it lives now. The only thing we should need to keep as a framework level annotation is that game object attribute. But yeah, and then once I'm done all of that stuff, you won't see any visible change, but architecturally, it'll open me up to be able to really work with and iterate on this UserEditable attribute, allowing me to assign things like groups of fields that should always be considered siblings on the actual form on screen, the order in which those groups are rendered, whether a field group is rendered as a column or as a row, and so on. So, and I can't do that in its current state, but once it's all down in the UI code base, it'll make a lot more sense for me to have that edit metadata much more customizable once I've got things moved to where they belong. So until this afternoon, thanks for hanging out, and take care of yourselves, and I will see you all next time. Happy coding. Bye now.